So this punch needle flower wall decor thing is what I'm going to show you how to make today. Hey everyone, welcome to all the new people around here. It's so nice to have you around. Hopefully we'll do some nice projects together. First thing I have to mention is that I am very aware that you're here for crochet tutorials. The thing is, I hurt my arm and currently cannot crochet. Yeah, I I crocheted too much in one sitting and now I can't crochet at all. It's been like months. But you know, sometimes it just is that way. So we're working around that, and I am a very crafty person, so even if I'm not crocheting, I've been making a lot of other crafts, and I also moved out, so that's another big thing that has happened. And I'm currently in my apartment and it's very bare. Well, this whole wall that is behind me, it's big and there's just about nothing on it, and it's also full of holes, and I did not want to paint, so I'm crafting something for it. I've been making these, tons of them. I'm gonna show you how I go about making them, and then I'll put them on my wall, and it's gonna be very nice, and we'll all be happy. That's the plan for today's video. Just quickly before we start, I wanted to show you what inspired me to make these. I saw this post and I thought it was really nice. The person that this is, it's Amy Gemmel Design. I'll be linking it. She's selling these, and also their page is like super nice. It's like very pastel and cute and everything that we love here. So we will quickly go over the supplies list. The very first thing that you're gonna need is a punch needle and some monk's cloth. So these are like the essential basic supplies to make this happen. What is special about monk's cloth is that once you punch through it, the little fibers, they open to let the needle go through, but then they close back up. So that's why this is important. And the punch needle as well as the monk's cloth, I both bought on AliExpress. It was like either AliExpress or Amazon, and I don't like Jeff Bezos. You're also gonna need some yarn. I used both like scrap yarn from my past project. You might recognize this from the star sweater. And I also bought some colors. I think in total I used a color palette of 10 colors for this project. Scissors and some glue. So I've got school glue, I've got fabric glue and hot glue. You could probably get by only using fabric glue. Also had some craft sticks. Also had my little flower. I printed this from Google. An embroidery hoop, some felt, a bunch of markers. I got some thread. You could use like yarn as the rest, but I had this lying around and wanted to use it, so I did. Finally, you're gonna need something to put it on the wall. It could be some nails. Didn't want to make more holes in this already very holy wall, so I bought some command little hooks to stick on it. So yeah. Oh, and I think for this you'd also need rubbing alcohol to like put it on the wall. So if you're doing that, you're gonna need that as well. Okay, so the first step is going to be with the hoop and with the monk's cloth. So when I was prepping my hoops, one of the things that was important to me was to save as much fabric as possible. It has to be like kind of tight to be able to punch it afterwards. So sometimes by wanting to save fabric, I'll arrive in situations where I like have some little holes on my hoops. I chose not to care. That's a decision you can make. You can also choose to care. That's on you. That's between you and your craft. When I'm placing the fabric on the hoop, I will tighten the hoop, and then I will try to tighten the fabric by just pulling it on each side to make it taut. And once it's about right, I will just go ahead and cut it loose from the rest of the fabric. It's absolutely not a deal breaker if it's not like the tightest thing ever. There's a bit of a stretch, that's okay. So once my fabric is secured on my hoop, I will come in with my little shape and a marker to draw it out. I'm just gonna trace it I'm going with a light marker at first. It can be very messy what you're drawing on the fabric. Kind of doesn't matter because you won't be able to see any of the monk's cloth in the finished product. But I'm going in with a light marker in the beginning because if I have to make some adjustments, I will be able to do so and will still be able to read my design. So I don't know if you can see it. It's drawn on very, very light. It's like a fluorescent little pale yellow. That's my first sketch. I'll be going in with something deeper as we go on. I don't know if you can tell, but right here the design comes very close to my raw edge on my fabric, and if I try to punch near a raw edge, it might mess it up. So I'm actually going to use glue to secure this edge real quick. So I'm taking my fabric glue because it's thicker, it's gonna dry quicker, and I'm sure that the fabric will be properly secured if I'm using this. So I'm just gonna go ahead and use my finger to take a little bit of glue. I hate doing that, but I can't be bothered. So I'm just taking a little dot of glue, and I'll be going along the edge just to make sure it won't fray any more than it is already frayed. So as it's drying, I'm gonna go in with a darker marker just to kind of redefine my shape, because even though I'm using my little paper thing as a stencil, I realized really early on that the petals were kind of not marked enough to really turn out to look like a flower, or at least to look how I wanted to. So I've gone in and fixed the shape for every single one of them. So this is what my flower looks like. I don't know if you can tell the difference between the yellow line and the red line, but the yellow point kind of ends here, and I made it go way further with the red. So that's the difference. And as I mentioned, since the yellow is way lighter, it kind of doesn't get in the way of the red. This will also be the point where you decide what kind of design you want to do for your flower. So for the one I am doing right now, I'm gonna go in with triangles design, but I'm gonna insert what I would draw for this and for this as well, so you get the full picture. When I'm drawing the triangles, it's truly as straightforward as it seems. I'm just, you know, drawing some triangles on. I'm gonna start looking at what I'm doing. Okay, cool. Alright, so this is what I'm going for. Now it's time to start punching. First, you want to pick the colors you want to use for your flower. I think I'm gonna do maybe, I've not reflected on this yet. I think I'm gonna do the center of the flower with the green, and then maybe the triangles with the purplish pink, and maybe the rest with the orange. I think that's the vision. I think it's gonna be cute. So, hell yeah. This is when you get the punching needle out. If you have the same adjustable one as me, that's when you're gonna want to pick the setting you're on. I put mine on C. I tried longer, but it looked whack. Like since the loops were so long, the shape was kind of unreadable. But you can make some tests. To thread your punch needle, you're just gonna want to put the little threader through the hole you've got at the end of your needle, and then make it go through the needle and all the way through. You want it to come out at the top, and then you're just gonna take your yarn and thread it through the little loop that you've got of the threader. You know, that's you're gonna thread the thread to the threader to thread it through the punch needle. So you're gonna do just that, and then you just pull the threader through it all. There you I found myself in the habit of starting with the center of the flower, but you can start with any part. I think I like starting with the middle, especially when I've got glue around the edges, because it allows me to start while it's still drying. And I'm impatient. You're gonna see it's very, very, very simple. One thing you want to make sure is that you've got plenty of yarn hanging out. You don't want it to be tight at any moment, because if it is, it's gonna start pulling your loops back. Okay, you don't want that. So you want to make sure to have a lot of excess yarn just hanging out. Then you're gonna punch your needle through wherever you want. So I'm gonna start by doing the outline, and then I'm gonna circle in closer. So I'm just gonna start about here, okay? So I'm just punching, and to secure your yarn, you're just gonna pull this little bit we've got, you're just gonna pull it through and leave it there to hang out. I'm gonna shorten mine, but you could leave it long, it doesn't matter. When you are punching, you always want to go near the first hole you make, and you don't want to lift your needle, and you want to have the hole that we use to thread the yarn, you always want to have it at the back, because what is happening when you're punch needling is that you're dropping a loop under through this little hole we've got, and when you're coming back on top, you're leaving the loop behind, and then you're punching another one right beside it that you're gonna leave there. Okay, so you don't want to lift your punch needle too high, because it's gonna pull the loop back out very simply. And you want to leave the little hole at the back, because that's where the yarn comes from. It's not more complicated than that. So you're just gonna punch the holes close from one another, and you just punch away until your design is complete. One thing that is kind of important is when you're gonna go in to make the second circle in, you don't want to go far from the first one, because otherwise it's gonna be kind of sparse. So you want to keep your loops close from one another. I'm gonna finish punching the center, and I'll come back when we'll be making the rest of the flower. Okay, so one thing I really like about punch needling is how stupidly fast it goes. I'm done doing the center of the flower, so what I'm gonna do to end this little shape I'm doing is just pull a little bit of yarn, and then I'm gonna cut it and just pull the needle through and leave the little yarn hanging, and that's it. I think I'm gonna be able to make the orange in like one big continuous block, whereas the triangles I'm gonna have to travel around. When you're punch needling, you can travel, it doesn't matter. We're not gonna be seeing the back at the end, but it's kind of annoying to like go under, over when traveling, and it gets messy, so I like to do the color that I'm gonna travel around with last, just so that it doesn't get in the way. I'm gonna be doing the same thing with the orange. I'm just gonna go through the little hole with the threader, and then bring the whole thing to the very end of the punch needle, and then gonna thread the orange yarn through the whole thing, get some loose yarn, and go for it. I think I'm gonna outline first, just because it feels right, but you could do one petal at a time. You could do the whole outline and then fill it in. It really doesn't matter. You can go about this any way you like. Okay, one thing I didn't mention, and I just realized as I was working, is if you're making a mistake, which I just did, is you just have to pull the yarn from the top, and it like undoes the last few loops you made, and you can go back to wherever you need to go. Okay, so I'm done with the orange. I'm just gonna pull a little bit of yarn from the needle and cut it. And finally, I'm starting with the purplish, magenta, pinkish color type thing. Okay, so I just finished punching the last color, so same as the other ones. I'm just gonna cut it. And yeah, so it's fully punched. I think it took me about half an hour. So when I said it goes fast, I meant it. That's what is really nice about it. When a craft goes fast, my heart goes boom boom. I love that. So once you're done punching, you're gonna take it off the hoop. Alright. I'm gonna go ahead and just cut the little bits that we left hanging out. We can just cut them to fit with the rest. We're gonna go ahead and cut the excess fabric. So I'm gonna leave about this much around it. So now you can see that I cut between each petal and rounded it off. You don't want to cut too close to the yarn. It almost happened to me once or twice, but I just put glue on it and it was no big deal. Now we're gonna glue the edges down, and usually for that part I use the just like white school glue along with a craft stick to put it around and like put the edges down without putting my fingers in the glue too much. Usually I don't put glue in like the very center of the shape, because at the end we're gonna glue some felt on top of everything, so it's like not a big deal if not everything is perfectly glued down. I'm mostly worrying about the edges right now, so I'm gonna put a lot of glue on the petals and do what I can to fold these edges down. Hope that makes sense. This step takes a whole bunch of glue, and the first couple ones I made with fabric glue the whole way through, but I found that it was using a ton of glue and fabric glue was more expensive than this, so I just went for this step. But the white craft glue kind of doesn't really stick the fabric too well. I guess this is why fabric glue exists. So this is why I still use fabric glue for the next step. So you see I've got one down. It doesn't perfectly hold, but this is good enough for our purposes. Also, I don't know if that's useful, but when I'm gluing fabric, I try to put glue under it and over it so it sticks better. Okay, so all of the edges are more or less glued down in a satisfactory manner. So now I'm gonna go ahead and grab some felt. So at the beginning I was trying to match it with the colors, but as I'm going along I have like less and less options, but I think that this works. I'm just gonna take my flower and like drop it on the felt in a way where every petal of the flower is on felt. Great. And then I take my Sharpie, but it could be any marker I believe, and just like trace where the petal is. I guess you could wait for the glue to be dry to do this step. It'd probably be easier, but I am impatient, so I'm just accepting the fact that this might be ruining my Sharpie. Once that's done, I take the flower off, and usually I pay attention to how I'm gonna like drop it beside me. I usually put a little arrow on the petal, like facing in front of me, so that at the end when I go to glue it, I know how it goes. I'm gonna cut the felt following the line I made. I'm just adjusting the shape a little bit if it needs to be done. We're really talking minor adjustments. It, like, look, is it perfect? No. Is it good enough? Very that. Okay, so it's not a big deal if it's not perfect. So I'm just gonna separate them again, keeping in mind where my arrow is, and then I'm gonna take my fabric glue, put some on the felt, and then glue it on there. The reason why I'm using fabric glue for this step is that we really want this felt to be glued on. I am also encapsulating so many cat hairs. So now I'm just gonna glue it on and make sure that like all the bits are under it. And now we're truly almost done. Actually, the only thing we've got left to do is to add a little loop at the back under a little piece of felt and then hang it on the wall, and then we're gonna be done. So that's exciting. Okay, so for the last little step, it's as easy and self-explanatory as it looks. I cut a little felt circle and cut like a few centimeters of thread. I'm gonna be choosing like where I put the little hanging thing depending on what side of the flower I'd like to be up. Sometimes it doesn't change a thing, but sometimes I feel like they're nicer if they're one particular way. This one is pretty symmetrical, I'd say. It's not my worst one. I've got ones that are like pretty flat, but it's the name of the game. I think I'm gonna go like this side up. So just waiting for my glue to be hot. All right, so my glue is finally hot, so I'm just gonna put a little bit of it right here and then put the little thread in it if it wants to go, and just cover it that way. Boom, and we're done with it. Now all we've got left to do is like hang all of these up. So I'm just gonna like follow the instructions, do as it says, and that's pretty much it. My plan is pretty straightforward. As I mentioned in the very beginning, there are like a lot of holes in this wall, a lot of lines as well. So my main priority is gonna be covering everything I want to cover, and then look at like where we're at, and then place flowers where I need to make it look okay. So that's our game plan. I just finished covering the holes. This is where we are at. I've got a few on the wall, so many more to go. So I'm gonna keep going, and truly, I swear, the next time I'll see you, they'll all be on the wall. All right, so we are just about like 2 months later. I had underestimated how many flowers it would take me. It did not take me 2 months to make all the ones I needed. I also procrastinated a good amount. But yeah, I made some more. There's still, I think, more I need to make for this side of the wall. But for now, what you see is enough for me to like wrap this video up. I am super happy with the end result of my project. I think it looks super nice, super cute. My vision didn't fail me, and we love that. So now I'm going to talk about what I would do differently. It's nothing major, but I think if I had known, I would have done it this way. So I'll let you know. So there are two things. The first one is that for some of my flowers, I put the little hanger really like close to the sides, So when I hang it, you can actually see the hook behind it. So I don't like that. I think I'm actually gonna put a second little loop more in the center, and if I were to do it again, I just put them all in the center. The second thing is that I would go for just one color of felt for all of them, because from down here you can just see a little bit of it. So I think it would look nicer if it was all the same, or at least if it all matched the colors. I was using felt I had lying around, so some of them have like whack colors that don't match it. It's not a big deal, but it's a minor detail I would do differently. I hope you make it, and if you make it, please show it to me. I would like to see it. You can send it to me on Instagram, you can tag me, or you can like message me. I'll get it either way and get back to you and hype you up. And otherwise, I think we're just about done. So thank you for watching. You could consider subscribing. That's your business, not mine. But if you do subscribe, I would love to have you around. Thank you. Have a nice day. Take care of yourself. See you next time. Bye.